What if I told you some Roblox games aren't just games? It sounds dramatic, but if you look closer, Roblox isn't just a harmless platform anymore. Behind the bright colors and simple characters is a massive world filled with experiences that can feel strange, heavy, and sometimes unsettling. And the scariest part is, you don't realize it right away. You click play expecting something fun, and suddenly the atmosphere shifts. The silence feels louder, the environment feels off, and for a moment, it doesn't feel like Roblox anymore. It feels real. Number 8. The Mimic. If there's one game that defines Roblox horror, it's The Mimic. But what makes it stand out isn't loud jump scares or constant action. It's the way it builds fear without rushing. You start in quiet environments, abandoned schools, empty corridors, dark forests. Nothing really happens at first. And that's exactly what makes it uncomfortable. You're walking through spaces that feel too empty, too still, like something is missing. Or worse, something is waiting. The game doesn't try to scare you immediately. It lets you sit in that silence. It lets your thoughts wander. And slowly, that tension starts building. Then, when something finally happens, it doesn't feel like a scripted moment. It feels like you walked into it yourself, and that's what stays with you. Number 7. Doors. Doors is one of those games that looks simple from the outside, but the moment you start playing, you realize how unpredictable it is. You move from room to room, opening doors, collecting items, trying to progress. It sounds straightforward. But every room feels different, and more importantly, every room feels uncertain. You don't know what's waiting behind the next door. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes something attacks instantly. Sometimes you're given a hint, and sometimes you're not. And that unpredictability creates a kind of tension that never really goes away. Even when things are calm, your mind isn't. You start anticipating danger even when there isn't any. You hesitate before opening doors. You listen more carefully. You question everything. And that constant mental pressure is what makes the game exhausting in the best way possible. Number 6. Apeirophobia. There's a different kind of fear that doesn't come from being chased. It comes from being lost. Apeirophobia is built on that idea. Inspired by the concept of the backrooms, it places you in an environment that feels endless. Yellow walls, empty rooms, no clear direction. At first, it just feels confusing. But the longer you stay, the more unsettling it becomes. There are moments where nothing happens at all. No sounds, no movement, just you walking through identical spaces, unsure if you're even making progress. And that silence starts playing tricks on your mind. You begin to expect something. You begin to imagine things. And when something finally does appear, it doesn't feel like a surprise, it feels like something you've been waiting for and dreading at the same time. Number 5. Dead silence. Some games rely purely on mechanics. Others rely on story. Dead silence does both, but what makes it memorable is how it pulls you into its narrative. You're not just surviving, you're investigating. You're trying to understand what happened, and every step you take brings you closer to something darker. The environment supports that feeling. It doesn't overwhelm you with action. Instead, it guides you slowly, letting the tension build through small details. You hear something. You see something. You notice something slightly off. And piece by piece, the story unfolds. By the time the horror fully reveals itself, you're already too involved to step away. Number 4. It lurks. There's something different about horror when it happens in a place that feels familiar. It hits deeper. It doesn't feel like you're exploring something unknown. It feels like something you trust is slowly turning against you. It Lurks understands that perfectly. Instead of throwing you into some abandoned asylum or haunted forest, it puts you inside a normal house. The kind of place you wouldn't think twice about. A bed, a hallway, a door slightly open, everything feels ordinary at first. And that's exactly why it works so well. because nothing scary happens right away. You walk around, maybe thinking this is going to be slow or even boring. But then something small changes. A sound you didn't expect. A movement that feels out of place. A moment where you stop and think, wait, was that always like that? And from that point on, the game slowly tightens around you. The atmosphere becomes heavier without doing anything obvious. The silence isn't peaceful anymore, it feels loaded. Like something is waiting for you to notice it. You start checking corners, listening more carefully, moving slower. And then comes the realization. You're not alone in that house. But the game doesn't rush to show you anything. It lets that thought sit in your head. It lets your imagination do the work. And honestly, that's what makes it worse. Because it doesn't feel like you entered a scary place. It feels like the place itself became scary while you were inside it. Number 3, the mirror. Some of the most effective horror doesn't come from action. It comes from stillness. In the mirror, you're given one simple task. Stand in front of a mirror. Nothing else. But as time passes, things begin to feel wrong. Your reflection doesn't behave the way it should. The environment subtly changes. The sense of reality becomes unstable. There are no chases, no loud sounds, no sudden attacks, just a quiet, growing discomfort that makes you question what you're seeing. And that kind of fear is harder to shake off, because it doesn't end when the game ends. Number 2, alone in a dark house. This game feels more like a slow-burning movie than a typical Roblox experience. You enter a situation already filled with tension, investigating something serious, something that feels grounded. As you move through the environment, you uncover pieces of a story that slowly becomes darker. What makes it effective is its pacing. It does not rush. It lets you absorb the environment. It lets you think. And as you start connecting the dots, the realization hits harder than any jump scare could. By the time you reach the end, it doesn't feel like you played a game. It feels like you experienced something. Number 1, the maze. There's a very specific kind of fear that comes from not knowing where something is, not seeing it, not understanding it, just knowing it's there. The maze builds everything around that feeling. You're dropped into darkness with almost no visibility. Your flashlight helps, but not enough. It only shows what's directly in front of you, leaving everything else hidden. And that darkness starts to feel alive. Most of the time, you're not seeing danger, you're hearing it. A sound in the distance. A movement somewhere behind you. Something that makes you stop walking and listen carefully. And that's when your imagination takes over, because your brain doesn't like uncertainty. It tries to fill in the gaps. It creates shapes, ideas, possibilities, most of them worse than reality. You start turning around more often. You hesitate before moving forward. You question whether you should keep going at all. And the worst part is, even when nothing is happening, it still feels like something is about to. You don't know where the threat is. You don't know when it will appear. And that constant uncertainty keeps you tense the entire time. It's not about what you see in the maze. It's about what you think you might see, and how that thought never really leaves you alone. So the real question is, are you just playing these games, or are they slowly getting into your head without you even realizing it? Some experiences stay on the screen, but others follow you long after you log off, and that's what makes them different. If you want to explore more content like this and be smarter every day, make sure to like and subscribe.